Welcome to the Easton.Online podcast. I'm your host, Eliot Marshall. And what this podcast is here to do, it's here to help you gain strategies and tactics and tools that are going to help you grow in your martial arts business. If you have a martial arts school, a gym, this is one of my passions, is how we spread the message of how to really grow culture and business and some ways that we do it the best with our people, with our staff, with our clients. So I hope you enjoy. Give a listen. All right, guys, here we are. First episode of Easton.Online, actually recorded in these amazing COVID times and not live with a person. And I'm here with my very first martial arts instructor. I call him Sabanim because we were just talking offline. That's all I know him by. We used to have to knock on the door. He would answer and say, "Come in." We would bow, and then we would go on the mat. So this was, I don't know, I'm 40 now. So 34 years ago, Mike
Wow.
Garaguso, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, Eliot. Good to see you. Things are looking good for yourself, I see.
Yeah, it's plugging along. Things are good. It was you who got me started.
Well, it wasn't me. I remember. Do you remember your first day?
Yeah, I remember my first day. I ran off.
Yeah, that was hilarious because
Yeah.
your dad, we had a small school and our lobby was really just like 4 feet wide by like 6 feet long. Your dad comes, I don't even know your dad at the time. He puts you on the floor and you start crying and run off. He picks you up, puts you back on the floor. Wait a minute. I think, oh no, he's going to want to have a talk with me. No, he leaves. He leaves a 5-year-old crying kid on the karate floor. And deep down though, I said, that's exactly what's missing from dads today. If a dad really knows what's good for his child and wants to invest in him, he's got to set aside certain personalities and emotions. That's what your dad did. He knew you were going to do this, but you'll get over it. That was the first time I ever saw that because it stunned me. My school was, your number, I think, was 504, right? Your student number?
501. Look at
501.
You. Wow, 501. Yeah. Wow.
That means you were the 500 student that signed up. But back then, I was all by myself with the little kid. I didn't have too many helpers. And when a little kid is crying and screaming, it's just amazing that you think that dad is going to be against your karate class, but he's more supportive of it. Like his view is, no, I know this is going to help Eliot. I know this is going to help my son. And this is what we're doing. That was dad's talk about that.
It was a planned thing because if my mom would have brought me, and I think they planned, like when I look back on that story, right? If my mom would have brought me, there's no way I don't know if she could have walked out. I would have ran. You would have had to hold me. With my dad, it was a different thing, right? Like I was like I would stay. So I think they planned it that way, right? They're like, there's no way he's like, they know me. I'm a 6-year-old little scared kid, and I had to be put on the floor. I said, I said I wanted to do it. Like I looked through the phone book. I saw Dominic Jacoby. Right? Like doing that flying sidekick in the yellow pages. Yep. And that's what I was like, yes. So it was this thing that I said that I wanted to do, but they knew what it was going to look like when we actually went to do it. So they did a good job. The two of them going, all right, Esther, you're staying home. Irv's taking them. Dad's taking them and bouncing. Here you go. Mike Garaguso, good luck.
Really what it was. I'll see you later. What time I got to pick him up?
Yeah. So, what was that like in the 80s for you, right? Because as I remember it, I mean, I'm not as I remember it, this is how it was. You would have 50, 60 people all by yourself. Yeah. And we would do everything. And then you would sit some of the white belts down, right? After everyone did form 1, right? And then the orange belts would do their forms and we just sit there and I learned this skill from you. Like almost all of my teaching skills I learned from you in the sense that you have to control the whole room all the time, know what's going on in your academy. Boom, boom, boom. No one walks in the door without you knowing it. What was that like for you in the 80s?
Well, the thing is, I was brought up. I remember when I started in 1977 and I started training every day. I didn't really know, you just went to class. That's what they said. I went to class. So after I became a red belt after 2 years, he had me, my original instructor, started having me teaching some classes, and, like we all think that we're inventing stuff sometimes, but a lot of times we just we just have material someone's already presented, whether it might have been from, say, Hoist Gracie at one time, past that. Everybody thinks we invented the wheel per se. No, we might have a better way of doing that wheel, but somebody else showed you a basic thing, whether it's a handshake, a greeting, how to teach a class, and then you just improved upon it. You just found like a better way of doing it. So most of my stuff was what was like that. Plus I had, like, it really didn't bother me to be at the school 12 hours a day. It didn't bother me to be teaching all the time. I was just used to that. To this day, you know, you get used to these things, and you did the same thing. I remember you would go to all the tournaments with us. You would always do it as a kid. So you didn't know anything else except this is normal training. This is normal for you. So the classes were very difficult at the time because they're large. But at the same time, that's how it was done in the 80s. You know, they had, you know, in our system, that's what they would do. You know, it wasn't until, I don't know, the middle 90s that I finally decided that I need to have a really team. If I really want to take it to the next level, you need to have a team. You just need a team. You need a great staff, and that's what it was.
What made you realize that? What made you realize that you wanted to take it to the next level? Because a lot of people don't even go there, especially then.
Well, I'm teaching what I consider, you know, not to be arrogant or anything, but I thought I was the best teacher in the world back then. I mean, I'm most dedicated. I never left my school in 12 hours, even for lunch. I never left my school. Either I was training, thinking of curriculum, or teaching. And it was just like that. But I'm only stuck at like 100 students. And most of my students back then didn't really have money. So you had discounts for everybody. You help this guy out. Before you know it, you had 50% are paying like $10. It was ridiculous. I was such an unprofessional that way, but I cared that I just wanted the students on the floor. So what happens is I end up going to the Federation schools after I left my original instructor, and I run into this guy named Donnie Southerton, which he's still around today. And this guy was, I used to make fun of him because he would go to class. He would show up at class with a briefcase and a suit and tie. And I remember telling Ginyard, Master Ginyard, I said, "Oh, look at that sellout. What a loser, man. He's not a martial artist. What a sellout." Until I find out he's got 3 schools and they all have 300 students. And back then, he's bringing in $20,000 a month on each school. I didn't believe him. I said, there's no way that's happening, because I was bringing in, if I was lucky, $6,000 a month. So I'm like, there's no way. So I don't know how it happened, but I said, you know what? I'm going to go visit this guy. So I don't know if you went with me, but I took, I remember Kelly Busby went, Joe DiVentura went, some of the early instructors I had, and we drove all the way up.
I was still too much of a kid. I was probably 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were too young. So we go all the way up to New York, North New York, where his schools were. And as soon as I get there, he's got 2 training floors. He's got music playing, Eye of the Tiger, when that Rocky movie came out. One floor is warming up with flying sidekicks to the music, and the other floor is teaching a class. And he has like a lobby of like people like buying and doing stuff. And I'm like, what in the world is this? It looked like Grand Central Station. And as a matter of fact, it looked so loud. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing my school like this. It just looked too loud. And then he shows me his computer. He opens up of how much money he brought in that day and how much is set for the month. And he had all these things in a statistical way. I never saw anything like it. So the first thing he does, he tells me I had to change my schedule. I have to do these things. And he's just very matter-of-factly. So I did some of the stuff he said, and that helped a little bit, but it didn't really change the program. But it did open my eye, thinking it doesn't really much how great of an instructor you are or how much you love your students. That's not it. You know why? Because your best student is going to quit someday. The person that you thought would never leave, he's leaving. Whether he gets married, whether he gets sick, whether he has kids or he has job takes him away, doesn't mean he don't like you. It just means he's leaving.
I was your student for 13 years. I was 6. I was 6 until 15 years. And I came every single day. I mean, to your point, right? Like I was on that floor every single day. It was my whole life. 18 hit. I got to have my own life. And there's nothing wrong with it, right?
No.
There's no, like, you would want that for me. Like,
absolutely.
You know? So that's a great point. Yes. That like your best student is leaving. So go ahead, finish.
Well, that's why I think about it. I says, listen, And we used to take it personal as instructors. You know, we used to take it like,
still do sometimes.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he like me? What did I do wrong?
Right.
I tried to work on a financial deal with him. We think of all these things until he said, you know, a couple of basic statements to me. And some of those things he got from educational funding. This billing company that was back then the number one business models to follow. They had this system in place. Whether it was a sellout system or not a sellout system, that's everybody can make their own decisions. But they had a system that was generating revenue. And all I'm thinking is, here I am killing myself, working way harder than those guys and making 1/3 less than they are. I said, this is not right. So, you know, I still don't really pay attention to the like change at the time until I started doing, actually, first time Hassett came to me about doing the jujitsu. We started rolling around doing these things. I used to wrestle in high school. So I said, that's fine. But it's hard to start jujitsu when you're 40 years old. That's when I started, you know? So as time goes on, I run in, I don't know if you remember Mike Donato. Remember Mike Donato, Master? Well, he comes to me one time saying he went to this seminar. And he goes, listen, Sabanim, you know, you have to come to this seminar. This guy is on the cutting edge of business practices. A lot of things you talk about, you know, about leaderships and doing this stuff. They actually have a whole program set up on this. So anyway, he convinces me to go. Now, I really never went, including EFC. I never went to one business seminar because I thought when I read the magazine, it said they're all sellouts. They're not martial artists. They just care about taking.
What year is this?
This is 1989. I get done the first nationals. I joined maybe 1991.
Okay.
1991. And, you know, I really don't want no part of it, you know, because, you know, it just seemed phony. They're going to give a bet. It just didn't seem right. So I go to this seminar anyway. He says, you got to go. It was such an eye opener. And I remember this one line he gave to this, actually, one of the jujitsu instructors from Burlington. I forget his name. Tough guy. And he's asking this seminar leader some questions. And he goes, well, you know, if I do that, you know, I forget, like he was arguing his case, this jiu-jitsu guy against the speaker. But the jiu-jitsu guy, he's not really making money. He doesn't have students, but he's tough, all this stuff. And the guy just looked at him, and this line I never forgot. He goes, that's wonderful what you say. He goes, so how's that been working out for you? You can hear a pin drop. You can hear a pin drop. He says, if it was working out for you so well, you wouldn't have paid $2,000. That's how much it was. You wouldn't have paid $2,000 to be at my workshop. And, you know, it was that. That was it. And that was how I went, he's absolutely correct. We could talk about our systems all we want, or we can open mind ourselves, be open-minded and say, you know what, is there a better way? Is there something I have not seen that will not lose my integrity, but it will increase my business? And that's what I did ever since then. And back right then and there, it changed everything. I mean, everything in a blink of an eye. I went home, told my kids. I still remember my son, Michael. I brought all my family into the living room. I said, listen, I just came back from a seminar and it blew my mind. And we're going to be making some changes. I said, we're going to actually have an official leadership team where we're going to train people how to be instructed. I mean, I went down a list. My son says, well, Dad, if you do all that stuff, you know, we'll have a bunch of sissies, no fighters, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, hold that thought, will you? So I look at my wife because my son just got in trouble at school with his teachers, right? So I looked at my wife and said, let me ask you something, honey. As a parent, what would you rather have your child, you know, be like? I said, that he comes home and he can kick everybody's butt. He's the toughest kid in the school. He can kill everybody. He can tap everybody out. Or the teacher says, your son is so respectful and courteous. Which one do you want, honey? Now, again, you can hear a pin drop. I won that argument.
Right. Right.
And so we incorporated these programs. And ever since then, I mean, everything, the way I approached money, the way I approached lessons, the way I approached enrollment, the way I approached instructor, everything changed. And I kept the good stuff, which everybody should do. Keep the good stuff, throw away the bad stuff. If it doesn't line up with your quote, emotional mindset that you have a faith belief system, throw it out. It has nothing to do with you. You have to incorporate stuff that you know lines up with Eliot Marshall, let's just say.
Right. Core values. We call them core values, right?
That's
like,
right.
We call a core value something you'll lose friends and money over, right?
That's
Like
right.
this is just who you are as a human being down to your soul. One of the things that you're touching on a little bit here is this idea, and I think especially in the jiu-jitsu community, right? Like we all want, every jiu-jitsu instructor wants to be the trainer of a champion,
Right.
because most of us weren't champions, right? Like, so everyone's like, oh, I'm going to train a champion. And I really think they missed this point, and it goes back to kind of what you said. You thought you were the best instructor, and that all can be very true. But the way you train a champion, in my opinion, the greatest way to do it is to get as many people to walk in the damn door as possible.
Absolutely.
If 10 people walk in the door, your chances of one of them being a champion, are super small, like stupidly small. If 10,000 people walk in the door, you've just increased it. And if 10,000 stay, you've just increased it even more.
Yeah.
And I mean, and you can live your life. You can actually, like, go to dinner and not like,
Absolutely.
So there is definitely a duality that goes on here. You can't, I can't give someone a black belt for not knowing how to do the buck and roll, for in a jiu-jitsu
Right.
move, right? Like, but I do need people to come in and stay.
Yep.
What did some of the actual changes in your school look like at the time? Now, I just want to make sure everyone understands. So this is the 80s. This is the 80s and early 90s. There's no jiu-jitsu. Like, we're doing karate.
No.
Like,
Right.
yeah, jiu-jitsu, it didn't, I mean, I guess it existed in California probably, right? And obviously in Brazil, but we didn't know any better. Like, it's
No.
not like, so, and most people now, everyone has jiu-jitsu at their schools now, right? And everyone has Muay Thai, and everyone has stand-up. You have to. So, but this is the 80s. This is strictly karate. What did that change look like for you? Like, actual changes?
Well, the first thing we did when I came back, I set up like 2 different kinds of programs, and I gave people, like, what I did is I went to Disney a lot. You probably know that. And I would come back learning some of
You
their.
love Disney World. You love Disney World. Always have.
Well, the thing is, the thing that blew me away was their organization and their level of service. That's what I cared about. So I started buying some of their books. I went to some of their workshops. I went to some of their stuff that Disney has, the Disney Institutes. And what I did is I became a little different in my approach to how we run the school. And some of it is see what happens. In my original instructor, and most people have this, we usually copy our original instructors, even if it's a negative side. That means, if he did it that way, then I'm going to do it that way, which doesn't mean it's always correct. So what I did is I started finding out what everybody does, let's just find out what's going on here and who's able to do this with the best integrity. So actually back then we even put wrestling in, because I used to wrestle and asset wrestle.
I remember.
Put wrestling in. Then we put fitness. We were the first one to do a 3-year-old program. We were the first one to do the fitness program when Taibo was starting off over in California. We were the first ones to do we were the first ones on everything, even bringing jiu-jitsu in down. First ones. So what I did is we had to find out how do you do this and put the proper value to your package. And that was the clincher. Somebody told me, it says, the problem that we have is most people do not put the proper value on what they're worth. And that was an eye-opener to me. I went to this one school. I'm not making this up. There's a girl, she's a black belt. This is in Florida. They, like, at some of the workshops, they would show you their schools and how they operate. They were the worst schools on the planet. I mean, if you saw it, you'd say, how in the world do parents put their kids here? That's what you would say. So what happens is, she's only got 50 students. Now, stay with me now. 50 students. She's bringing in $20,000 a month. 50 students. I'm like, and that's back in 90, I don't know, 4 maybe. My head's going to explode. And she's only been training for 2 years, and she's a black belt. I'm like, I'm speechless to the point where I'm almost angry. And I'm like, how is this possible? Then they tell me what they did, how their system does it, how they charge their rates, how they do all this stuff, and what their main goals were. And I said, you know what? The system was correct, but the way they did it, in my view, was incorrect. What that means is they would sell you stuff and not deliver on what they're selling, but you would buy it anyway, thinking it was. So I says, you know what? They only got one floor as big as my original school, And back then I had 12,000 square feet. I could do whatever I want at my school, 5 training. I says, you know, I'm going to find a way to do this system, but I'm going to do it with integrity. I'm going to find a way to have the proper value of what it's worth and then just start incorporating it regardless of what anybody thinks of the old students. Because what happens is, let's say you run into a position where you might have to adjust your rates for the year 2021. Well, your one student been used to a certain rate for 10 years. Well, he's going to think, well, why are you doing this? Don't you like me? Not realizing you could turn that around on the student and say, well, why? Don't you like me? Do you think my kids should starve, not go to college? All my things went up. Everything's going up. In fact, I'm struggling to death during this virus just to stay open. And I haven't changed your rates for 10 years, but you think I'm the bad guy. I've kept you everything that I possibly could. And this is what instructors and professionals have to realize, that it is almost in your mindset. You either are a professional, right? You're a professional, or you're just a part-time instructor. And a professional learns, think about this now. What good is it going to do if your instructors, as good as they are, and they open up satellite schools, but because they don't have the right tuition and the right amount of membership to pay their bills, they have to close down. And the reason they closed down is because I didn't want to charge you higher rates, Eliot, because I didn't want you to not like me. Well, how's it working out now that you're not even teaching them?
Yeah, it's the price for me is a simple one. One, to answer, like, to stay on this, I don't take money to teach jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai. You pay tuition for a life journey. We're going to improve your life as a human being. So that's the charge. The charge isn't the jiu-jitsu class. I teach jiu-jitsu for free. I don't think it. I haven't personally taken money to teach jiu-jitsu in, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years. Like, and I do a seminar, I give the money away. I private lessons, give it away. Don't care. I personally do not care, because the tuition set at a place where it's valued.
Right.
You are not getting I mean, no offense here, you're not getting a Honda Civic when you walk in our schools. You're getting a goddamn Ferrari.
Yeah.
And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. There ain't no, in my opinion, and this is how I think everyone's opinion needs to get to, there is no place like my school. You should be like, and I remember you saying this to me, noon should come and you should be looking at your watch going, all right, 5 hours, I get to go to karate. Right? Like, that's that you instilled that in me. That's the community and the culture that you want to instill in the school. So the tuition, I mean, they should look at it like Anytime Fitness. Oh yeah, hell yeah, whatever that number. Like, you look at Anytime Fitness's number, $20, great. Okay, I never go.
That's right.
$250, great. I can't wait to go.
That's right.
Whatever your tuition is. Yep,
that's exactly how I think the school works. Because I remember the first time I did my leadership training program, and the rates, were going to go up exponentially. I think back then it might have been $100 a month, and the average was going to be, at the time, maybe $150 a month. I still remember having a meeting. I don't know if you were even there. We had a meeting with the whole school. Because I said these changes, everybody's got to hear about them right away. And I don't use the word changes. I just put improvements are coming. To use the word changes, people get very set back on that word. People don't like the word change. So I had this meeting, and I still remember Zach Ziff. I don't remember Zach Ziff's. His dad would train. He did a jiu-jitsu with us when we did it. So anyway, after I got done my speech about the leadership program I was going to do, which was going to allow people to cross-train with jiu-jitsu, fitness, basic weapons, besides the tongue sudo, it was going to be able to cross-train, unlimited classes. It was unlimited everything. And there's going to be like 3 or 4 different classes to pick from a day you can come to. And so everybody was all excited about it. Now, I didn't tell them about the rate adjustment. So the one guy says, that's great, Sabadim. How are you going to keep everybody from signing up? I said, tuition's going up. And he starts cracking up. He goes, well, that'll do it. Right. And I remember, though, 50 people, 50 people upgraded that day right then and there. And you know why? Because they seen a value that went beyond the martial arts, especially when I told them I was going to teach them basic skills on certain things. There's going to be actually lesson plans on this. There's going to be written work, all these things. And they jumped at it. And then every year I decided to improve upon it and modify it. And I believe even to this day, that's what sets our school still apart now, that there's life skills that they learn per se, that goes beyond the fee for the karate lessons. You know what I mean? I mean, here's somebody asked me a long time ago what I do, and I borrowed this from a psychologist's office that I found in Collingswood that was on a desk in the town hall because I was going to open up a school in Collingswood, and they gave me their flyers. And one of the doctors said this quote, and I said, "This is what I'm going to use forever. I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply it to me." And it says, "Okay, so they ask you, what do you do as a career? What's your job?" I said, "Well, I help people organize and focus their thoughts." Now let that sink in for a while. It's impossible for you to learn Shilsung 5 without organization and focusing your thoughts. It's impossible. There's like say a reverse triangle, whatever it could be that's complicated. You have to focus on it. So number one thing is we help people organize and focus thoughts. Second one, we help people set clear and obtainable goals. Now, who in this world does not want to have the ability to set clear and obtainable goals? So I said, it's very easy on the road to black belt. How do you make black belt? These are the actual steps. It's not hidden, it's clear, and it's obtainable. How do you know it's obtainable? Eliot obtained it. Somebody in front of you did it. Everybody can do it. And the third one was the clincher. We help people to face challenges and overcome obstacles. And then I use this last bullet point. I just have to use martial arts as a vehicle. That's it.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
I mean, so if we do that, everybody wins, because who does not want to have better focus on their thoughts? Who doesn't want to have the ability to achieve a goal? And a goal doesn't have to be martial arts goal. It could be anywhere in your life. And who doesn't face challenges and obstacles? We're facing it right now. This is right now. Are you able to overcome it, or are you not? Now, we could talk how tough we are. We could say all that stuff. But when it really hits the road, I said, yeah, but jiu-jitsu or karate or Muay Thai, none of those things make you tough. That just means you can fight. What makes you tough is, do you quit when things are hard? Do you run away from your marriage when you're having a struggle? Do you give up when the bank says you got zero money in there? Well, now you can tell. I still remember John Hassett coming to me, and he used to come to me almost once every 3 days when his school was in Mays Landing, and he's struggling financially with the jiu-jitsu. He's having ups and downs, and I used to share everything with him, but he didn't want to do any of it. So to the last one, I said, here's what you need to do, and this is it. And this is the last thing I'm going to tell you. I said, you know how much you love wrestling and jiu-jitsu? You know how much you love it? He goes, yeah. I said, apply that same love and passion to customer service, and you'll be fine. That's it. If you spend 4 hours on the mat, put 4 hours in a book.
Yeah.
And it made sense to him. And he started doing all the different business practices until he became very successful. I said, it can be done. You just have to tell yourself, this is what's happening here. Like if I look, like say you hit a very good point when you said you want your school to be the nicest school when people come in here, that this is the place to be. Well, I told students, if you really want to know what a good school looks like, get out of yours. Say, what do you mean? I said, go visit other schools. Go online. Go look at them. Do they smell? Or actually, sometimes you got to go in and smell them. Do they smell better? Are the windows clean? Are the mirrors done? Are they polite in there? Do people smile? Do they shake hands politely? All those things are what's necessary, all of them. And so that's what you did. I'm almost positive that's why it worked. You know, I mean, those old days of just saying, we just want the, toughest kids and the toughest that. Well, that's fine. If you don't do other stuff, you might not.
You can have them too. I have them too. Yeah, it's not an either or. They both exist is the thing that we really need to get through to people is, look, I'm not bragging, but we have the #1 fight team in the world in the school. Like,
yeah, that's excellent. Yeah.
I'm just now stepping down as the head coach. You know, I'm going on to some other things, but like we're #1. There is not a fight team. You can make arguments top 3 always, right? But they both exist. Like you can do it.
That's right.
It's work. It's work. And I would say that one of the most nicest compliments that I ever got from somebody was somebody came in during fight practice, right? Which is, fight practice is different than when when the regular students are there, right? Like I allow different things during fight practice. Gym's closed. You can have your shirt off. I don't care about the music. It's fighting, you know?
Right.
The person who came in to film that day, he was like, man, I have never experienced a culture like this at a fight gym. And I say it's because I'm not a fight gym. Like there's no fight gym about us. Like we are a martial arts academy. So whether you're doing it or not doing it, how you're doing it in particular times, we're a fight academy. I mean, I'm sorry, we're a martial arts academy, not a fight academy. You can have fighters there and you can give them their time.
Yep.
But they know when they come to outside of that 2-hour block, it's a martial arts academy. We're here to improve our life. We're not here to, that will include becoming a better fighter.
Yeah, but that's why you're successful, because you know why? You came across, I call this the empty cup theory. You know, I remember my instructor, Master Wong, he said, you come to class with an empty cup. I never knew what that meant until he explained it. And he says, a lot of people, they come to class or business seminars or whatever, not really willing to learn anything. They come with their own knowledge, trying to argue that whatever you're presenting is incorrect, instead of saying, I'm going to pretend I know nothing and hear what this person has to say. And once you do that, like right now, just what you just said about your school, how it runs with the fight team over here and a fight class like this is so important that people realize, because I agree 1,000%. Like when I did, like even now, even though I've been doing this all this year, I'm always thinking something different. So I put in knife fighting at my school, right? Because I studied some knife fighting, not knife defense, no, offensive knife. So I went with some of the people that I thought, could, fight with knives. And I bought all their DVD. I did all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I'm only going to incorporate that with certain students, right? And I explained to them, and I used the concept from Crocodile Dundee. And I remember his first movie, but when
you were so good at this stuff, you're so good at this stuff, like taking outside world stuff and bringing it here. And this is one of your specialities. Go ahead.
Well, he brings it. Remember when him and his girlfriend are walking in the city, and a guy comes up to take a knife on him, and she goes, "Oh, look at, he's got a knife." And then he pulls that's not a knife, and he pulls his knife out. And I tell people, I says, that right off the bat, in real self-defense, is an equal. No matter how good you are in jiu-jitsu and karate, and how good I am in jiu-jitsu and karate, or even self-defense against knives, there's a big difference when you pull out a knife, and then you see me pull out a knife in an offensive mode. Your thinking has definitely changed. You're like, what did I run into? Now, to tell other people that, they might say, that seems kind of violent or something like this. I said, listen to me. If you're going to teach real self-defense, you have to teach scenarios that might actually happen. Is it possible this could happen? Is it possible? So we started doing these other things and just incorporating that, because that's what I think today. Like back then, when the first person, I think maybe when we were all doing the jiu-jitsu, I said, is it possible somebody could tackle me? Remember when you challenged Hassett that he couldn't blah, 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 and he's tackling you every couple minutes. And I went, that's it in a nutshell. Now, I knew that when I used to wrestle in early 70s, when I used to wrestle, I said, let me tell you something. I could take anybody down with a double leg takedown. I don't care how good you are. I knew it. I just knew it. Regardless of my kicks, which I love kicking, because I don't, I'm not going to do a double leg takedown if it's 3 against 1. I'm going to take somebody's head off. I'm going to have to that's what I'm going to do. So people got to realize, listen, train and teach according to what you believe is valuable, not just for you, but for others, in a way that you can sleep at night saying, listen, I gave the best standards that I thought at that time. And if we continue to do that and teach, and not only that, you have to like what you're doing, right? You have to enjoy it. It's got to be like, oh, that was pretty cool. The first time I seen this, I said, oh, that's pretty cool. Like the first time I told you, I got tapped out with an Americana by a skinny 19-year-old, and I'm 40 years old. And I'm like, okay, that hurt. Sign me up.
Right.
Sign me up. I had no pride. Most people have pride. Oh, I'm not going to do that because that hook click will never work. Really?
You were the first one. You were the first one who really, you and Hassett, right? Like, but Hassett school wasn't super successful yet, but you had this big school, right? Like students where you saw jiu-jitsu, and you've never had this problem. I would say, what taught you this skill? Because you saw jiu-jitsu, and look, you didn't just like throw away karate. Like no one's saying that you should just, like, it was still the mid 90s. Right. Like we didn't know what jiu-jitsu was doing. You can't throw away karate. Karate's the thing, right? Like, so, but you like, we had to start learning. Like, it wasn't like a question,
right?
Had to happen.
Right. I remember the first time I taught the rear naked choke, right? I don't know if you were in class, and we have the black belts upstairs, and we're fighting. It's a fighting class 2 against 1. And do you remember Timothy Snare? Remember Tim Snare?
Yeah.
He made 2nd degree. He was worked as a pharmaceutical. Nice guy. Well, it's my wife and another person against him. Now, my wife she's deaf, right? She don't really hear too.
Yep.
Well, she must have thought I said, begin the fight. Like she must have thought I key up or whatever to start. She jumps airborne, jumps behind him, wraps the rear naked choke on him. He can't get out of it. He falls down. I had to stop her. Stop. I didn't, nobody was ready to fight. Right. She's all apologetic, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I told you. The next day he calls me up. Sabanim, man, I didn't join, your karate school for that jujitsu crap. Your wife almost broke my neck, and I'm quitting and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, Mr. Snare, I think you should think about it like this. You just had a woman beat you up and you can't get out of the move. I think what you should have done is call me up, Sabadim. Is there a counterattack to what happened to me?
How do I stop that?
Right. But no, he quit instead. Well, and I felt very strongly that it didn't matter because I knew the value that this other kind of training was going to benefit everybody. Do you know why? Because I already knew it in the fights I've been in. I mean, I've been in X amount of fights and every one ended up on the ground, every single one. So I already knew we're doing it whether everybody agreed or not. Eventually it'll work out. And that's what instructors have to stick to. They have to see, is this good for people? Is it good for your student who's going to say he's a black belt, but he can't do no hand technique? He can't even throw an uppercut. He can't throw an elbow. I say, no, that's not good. He should know the basics. Now, that doesn't mean he has to love boxing.
Striking. Right.
Should know how to cover up. Simplest things. I said, listen, I still went to the beach yesterday, did all my forms. Now, are forms going to be necessary on a street fight? I says, no, that's not why I do forms. I do forms for balance, coordination, stamina, timing, kicking speed, flexibility, and for rejuvenation. Now most people, they don't even know. I said, I don't even care what you do. That's what I'm doing.
I teach in forms personally. Like I teach not memorize like, okay, we call this 1 or 2 or that I don't name them, Right. But everything I teach is in a form or flow. Like you have to put series of moves together. And in jiu-jitsu, you have to work with a partner. So it teaches you that aspect, which is the hardest thing in jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, is you have somebody else who has to do it with you, right? Yep. Like almost like 1-steps, how we used to do 1-steps, right? Like, and it's like this, okay. It's 7 moves, it's 7 moves.
You know why that's hilarious? I do that for their black belt test. In order for you to pass your test, you have to do 5 fight sequences in jiu-jitsu from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I got that from. I must have saw it somewhere and I just stole it. I mean, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I stole it too. Like you said, everyone steals it.
Yeah, I don't know where.
Yeah.
I remember
I got it from
incorporated. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I even incorporated full contact. I told you I started doing full contact with even like the kids. And it's hilarious because now I can watch a kid who can't really kick, can't really do stuff. But you know what? You get into a fight with him, he's going to punch you right in the face, full blast. The parents, 90%, they all agree because another thing that your instructors have to do, all your people out there, they have to be excellent at pre-framing. And pre-framing is allowing the parents to see your vision of why something that you're introducing is going to be very beneficial. You have to be able to explain to them, and here's another one, and they have to believe you. They have to really trust you. And I've been very fortunate. You
have to believe it first, right? You have to know, you have to hold it true to your heart.
That's right. So if you can tell me that you think that, and this is the reason I had to leave my organization, the federation, I had to leave. I don't know if I told you that, but it's been 5 years ago. I was just fed up with the black belt testing nonsense because I have 30 people, between 20 and 30 people every 6 months testing for black belt. They got to do all this, written stuff, pictures, but all this busy work. They have to have the essays typed just the right way. It's so much nonsense that we can't train enough. We have to do the written stuff. So I went to my instructor. I said, sir, I think we all want to, and this is how I win my arguments. You have to know how to really hit it where the other person has nothing he can say, even though he don't want to say it. He can't say anything because you just ended it. I said, Kwanjin, I think that you're an excellent practitioner. I never seen anybody kick as fast as you, move as fast as you, punch as fast as you. You know what? I want my students to be like you. As a matter of fact, I want my test to be exactly like your test was. Now I just ended it. I said, you didn't have to do any of this written stuff, sir. You didn't have to do those wrist grabs, sir. I said, as a matter of fact, and I brought out the original Korean book. In 1950, it was written, all in Korean. I turned to the back. It must have at least, I don't know, 500 pictures of self-defense from the ground in a chair against rifles. I said, that's what I'm going to start teaching, sir. I'm not teaching this anymore. I'm going back to what you guys did in the 50s, and this is how I'm going to train, and this is what I want. So to make a long story short, things are going on with the organization that is too difficult for me to run my own school and its standards in business. So I told him, I said, listen, I don't want to leave my instructor or organization. I'll still send you $3,000 a year for my testing. I'll do all that. As a matter of fact, you can even fail my students, but I'm not coming to your test. I said, I'm doing my own test, and I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it like this. I said, and I had to explain it, and it comes down arrogant. I said, because I have a better way. I says, now I'm not telling any of you guys to change. Now what happens is most of the people, they agreed with me, but Hart didn't have a board of directors. They disagreed. And it went on for 2 years to the point where I just left. They didn't give me an answer. Well, 2 years later, now it's 4 years, they finally call me back, and they want me back, and they agree to all my concerns. I can do my test myself, send this, they agree with all of it. I said, well, it's too late now. My son-in-law owns the school. I said, he's not going to make it adjust. We did all that. We changed our name, changed our shirts. We changed everything. I said, I told you 4 years ago how simple it was. I said, you didn't have to worry about Mike Garaguso at all. As a matter of fact, I'll make my own certificates. I'll do everything, and you'll still get paid. I said, but you guys all turned that down. I made it as simple as I could, and I told you why. And here's the joke. Now you agree with everything. You took the essays out of the test. You took the wrist grab. You did everything that I said was a problem, and you called me a renegade, and now you're doing it. That's why your instructors and staff, as you said it earlier, if you believe it in your heart that this is going to be beneficial for blah, 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 whether it's your family or your friends or your community, then just do it. Just do it. If you know the other thing is not correct, you know.
And it sounds like you took so everyone can kind of go, oh, it's money, right? Especially in this business world, because it's mostly business people that we're talking about. But you're not talking about money here, right? Because you're saying, look, I'm going to pay you the same. I won't touch your money.
That's right.
Like your money's fine. I'm guaranteeing your money. You know, for me, I do it with I don't know. I had somebody come up to me, I don't know, a year ago, and he was like getting ready to sign up, and he was like, give me the sales pitch.
Really?
You know? Like my front desk was getting ready to, like, you know, he just took his first intro class, right? And I was walking out the door. I said hello, and you know, I told him I was the owner. He's like, give me your sales pitch. And I was like, my sales pitch? I was like, I don't have one. He's like, well, what's the sales pitch? I was like, look, you want the sales pitch? This is the sales pitch. I know my school's amazing. I'll guarantee every penny you pay right now. If you're not here in 30 days, you get it back. I don't care. You won't be getting it. You won't like, right. I offered for him to go try drop-ins at other schools. I was like, I'll pay whatever you want. It's cool. But like you're not going anywhere, because right. you take the money away and you live on some standards, you know, just like you did with the federation. Like, look, the money's fine. Yeah. I think this is more skillful. So let's try it this way. No, all right. Well, I'm going to do it this way. Now you lost money. Now you messed up. You blew the money for you.
Yeah. Well, I lost money in it because what I did is when I told my belts this, you have to remember, you probably, when you were there, I used to build up the federation and my instructor. I would talk about it every day. I was very
every day.
I mean, to the point where, you know, I made the federation almost more important than me. I just talked about them all the time. So some of the black belts, they didn't like not being in the federation. And I literally told them, I said, listen, I'm not telling you to stay. I said, I still have friends there. I had this. I said, but it's not going to be necessary for me and my family or what our goals are for the future to do it like this. And they left. I lost money. And to the point where one of them opened up a school, you know, like Michelle Genova. She opened up the school. She left me. She went over there. And I just had to say, all right. What am I going to do? I said, people don't realize I don't want to bring in faith and all that nonsense to, go deep on this. I said, but I don't really need you to provide my needs. I know if I do things with integrity and work hard, it's going to work out this way, even if it means at that moment, it might not seem fun at the moment. It's not enjoyable at the moment. Well, that's where your discipline comes in. That's where your perseverance comes in. Because I just can't do it that way, even though I know you want to do it that way. I
Core
can't
values.
do it no more. And I said,
Right.
but as far as you, I'll still like you. I'll still say hello. I mean, we're going to part as student instructor. That's fine. I have no ill will towards that. I can't do it. But here's the joke of all of it. Last week, they call me up, my seniors. Now, there's not many people alive that are still my senior anymore. One of my
what ranking?
Well, I should have been in 8th degree. And here's the joke about that. Check this out. When this was going on 5 years ago, they literally told me, I'm not making this up. The executive director told me, well, Mr. Garaguso, if you stay, we could send you your certificate for 8th degree. Your 8th degree is I said, do you really think that my degree means anything to me? I said, how long have you guys known me? I don't care what anybody thinks about me. Literally. I mean, that's the ego that people put out there.
Have they not literally? Have they not met you? Like, I mean, I was a kid when I knew you, and I know that.
Right. I mean, who cares about this Grand Poobah stuff? So anyway, 5 years go by, right? After all that stuff. So he finally calls me up. He says, they're forming a program starting with you in mind called the Heritage Mudaquan, where you could be connected to the founder and not have to be in the federation. And we thought about this because of you. And anyway, we want to invite you to the 75th anniversary because Kwanjin says you're a big part of the Federation's success, all the workshops and seminars you did, the talks you did, the students. Well, anyway, I went on the site. They did this, right. I guess, like we're doing here. I don't know how they did it.
Sure.
A 3-day event, this and that. And they still want me back. They still want this stuff. I said, listen, I'll come back. I have nothing against any of this stuff. I said, but as far as you receiving my black belt money now for my students testing for black belt, that's between you and Steve Carr. I mean, I told you this was going to be a nightmare if you didn't do what I said earlier. Because now, when you test for a black belt, you remember there was a black belt fee, right? Well, most of the fee went to the Federation. Well, now the fee, instead of that, it goes to a brand new uniform, trimmed with all the patches, brand new belt, a free banquet, the testing facility is free. I said, that's where all your money goes. Your spectators are free. I said, and that's why when you brought up about money, I said, these people think I'm making money. I lost money. I made more money the other way, but they don't get it. I said, you don't understand integrity. You don't understand that it's not always about profit. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't want money. Of course I do, but not like that. Not like that.
I call profit and money a KPI. It's a key performance indicator. If you're doing what you said you're doing, right? Like people will pay you, but it's not the end goal. Like
no,
it's what's there when you do a good job. Like I'll pay anything for a better life. Everybody will, right? That's a thing. Like if you could pay right now, like you and I have a good life. You have a good life. If you knew that you could pay for an improved life, most people, like you're like, okay, if this is the bang's worth the buck, right? So that it's an indicator of whether you're running your school in a good way. It's not the reason you run the school.
That's right. Well, that's when I first started like paying a staff, even though I didn't pay them a lot. I remember we were conditioned though, when we were brought up, that you don't pay your black belts anything. They were supposed to just help out. That's how you were brought up in the thing. And that's when I went and I said, the first seminar, when they told me they actually paid their people, and then they explained why, well, I started finding out how do I do that. And it wasn't until I got to when I think you and Fletcher and Phil and you guys all moved on. And I think I had Gilmore and Lee Stewart, a couple of the other guys, that my school was bringing in like 60,000 to 70,000 a month. I mean, it was incredible back then. It was incredible. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start giving them a percentage. I'm going to let them be deciding on how they want to. And they had this system of how you paid and rewarded your people. And some could get flat salary and some could be on commissions and sales. Well, the two people that were on commissions and sales, I think was the better way because it showed that they really had a desire to be full-time professionals and they were responsible for the upkeep of the school, of everything, because everything mattered. Well, both those guys were making 6 figures. 6 figures back then. That's unheard of, paying your staff 6 figures. 2 people, not 1, 2.
It's unheard of now.
It was unbelievable. And that's why
most staff doesn't make 6 figures.
No, and they all thought that I was making all this money. And I said, I was making money. I was making maybe a $250,000 a year, but these guys were making $100,000 a piece. That could have all been mine if I was a selfish person. All of it could have been mine, because everybody knows as long as I was at the school, it was still going to work no matter what. But I didn't want that. I wanted to be home with my wife. I wanted to be home with my kids. I wanted to travel when I wanted. I wanted to be, and that's from the books I've read, especially this guy Gerber, that's called E-Myth. And I think it was the other one was, what's his name? The guy that did Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, anyway, he said, you can either be an employer or an employee. He goes, and this is how you can tell if you're an employee. You still need to be at your business. That hit me like a ton of bricks, because I thought I was a business owner. Because you're not a business owner. You're an employee. He goes, this is how you know. Leave your school for 6 months.
See what happens.
If it's the same or better off, then you're an employer. But if it's worse, you're an employee, and the school can't live without you. So I said, you know what? I'm going to train all my family now. I'm going to train them all that the school never needs me anymore. I'm going to do, and you told me what you just said. You just did it. If your school might want you, there's a difference. Like I just went, my newest grandson just started karate, the TOTS class.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I put it up. It was cute. Everybody liked it. Everybody was there. And so many parents that haven't seen me, I told you, because my surgery and all that, they haven't seen me since March. They were like, oh, this is great seeing all the Garagusos here. This is great. And deep down, I said, I know what they mean. Because you still want to be connected to the guy that's in charge. You still want to see Eliot on the mat once in a while. You still want to see him walking through the building. They still have to see the owner because he cares about the place. And that's what I think a lot of people, they think, oh, I can get to that level. I don't ever need to be there. I said, well, I'm not sure that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. God, it's back to this duality. You need to not be there, right? Because that's what will make it really run. And in my opinion, you're not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. None of us are the smartest guys in the world in everything. You need to be able to hire people, really bring them on, create careers for people so that they can take it to new levels.
Absolutely.
Like other people can have amazing ideas, and you have to give them the power to be able to do that. You have to release your power so much, which is actually growing your power, in my opinion, but that's for another talk. And allow people to shine.
That's right.
And then they will. And then they will. People will step up to the plate and shine, in my opinion. So,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Look, this, like I said, this all started me, my dad leaving, right? Like, and kicking me on the floor. And who knows what would have happened with my life without, I don't know anything other than this. I mean, I've learned so much along the way, but I am, as I believe you would say, you are a martial artist through and through. And there will never be any differences.
No.
As we close up here, I think it's a super important thing. And you touched on it earlier. I don't do all of your business practices, and you probably don't do all of my business practices. And we might even disagree on some of those business practices. That's okay. Right? That is 100% okay. You're not right, and I'm not wrong, and I'm not right, and you're not wrong. It's cool. Like, people do things slightly differently. Take what's good from this. Take what you can learn from me, from Mike Garaguso, from whoever. Put it into your place, and that's what you do with your life, right? Like, you don't follow someone's life to a T. No one does.
No,
right? No one does. So,
well, listen, first of all, you become a business owner because you want to run things.
Yeah.
You want to be the owner. That means the owner has the right to say, I ain't doing that.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a correct thing he said. It could be simply because he doesn't want to. There is nothing. That's exactly why you open up a school, so that you can have the hours you want, the schedule you want, the timing you want, the lesson plan you want. That's why you do it. That's why it's called your school. However, with that all said and done, you should go out there and invest as much of your time as you can. And I call it the copycat syndrome. Go find out as many successful people as you can, and just ask questions, study them, find out what they're doing. Now, again, keep the things that line up with your quote lifestyle and philosophy, and get rid of the rest. You know, like the first thing that made me completely out of debt and completely be able to live like I'm living now was a book called Automatic Millionaire. I mean, it was an easy read. Actually, it looks like this. It's an easy read. It took one day. And that changed the way that I did. It taught me how to get out of debt, pay off my buildings, and it taught it in a very simple way. And then I started getting other books that he recommended. Like one is 5 Lessons a Millionaire taught me. Brilliant book. Simple and to the point. Another one was this one. This one's called The Millionaire Next Door. I recommend everybody get it because I thought millionaires lived and act differently. Like, no, he goes, they could be right next to you. You don't even know. And he tells me, who wrote it?
No, I said you don't even know it. You don't even know it.
And then I had to do Dave Ramsey's books on financing because the guy's like a financial guru. And I had to make sure I was on the right page because when I'm making 60, 70,000 a month, it's not a matter of what money you're making. It's what money you're going to lose by either who knows what. So I had to decide, how does this work? And then the last financial book I got was called The Ultimate Financial Plan. It's this way. It's called The Ultimate Financial Plan. I don't know if you could say it this way. I recommend everybody get that book once you have sustainable income that's good. Because we think we know what we're doing, but we might not. Like I didn't know that you have to have like certain other things in place. And I did all those things. And then I started being able to do stuff. I paid off every one of my cars. I bought 3 houses in cash. I did all this stuff because right now, I told you, I haven't had a paycheck since March. My unemployment's $231 a week, which is hilarious. But thank God I was able to be okay. Now, eventually, like I said, you know, I'm going to go back and teach again. I'm going to go back and do stuff because I'm all better now. But, you know, and that's only because I want to. You know what I mean? Not because I need to. You know, you want to do this stuff. But anybody that's like, say, 40 years old and you're in that position of the accumulation stage, they have to be very careful that they know why they're accumulating it and how it can best be their slave. Like money should never be your master. You should master it. And you have to master how it works or people are going to be, even though nobody wants to admit it. But the one thing people are always going to be arguing about and talking about and needing is money. And I wish it wasn't so, but it is. Like next time your wife says, listen, honey, I want to buy the kids these blah, blah, blah. And you said, well, honey, that's an extra $2,000 that we had available. Well, if money didn't mean any, the biggest way that I caught people about money, I said, well, if money doesn't mean anything to you, then why don't you give me all your money? They just look at you. I said, you know what? I mean,
you have to understand it.
Right. Because money is strictly a tool. It's neither good nor bad. You should be able to give it to charity, feed people with it, help people with it, do all those things and don't let it own you. And the best way to do it is in your position because you're allowed right now to make a decision. Like all the people that are either listening today or whatever that's going to listen, if they're business owners, they don't know how lucky they are that they have today a choice and a decision that they can say, you know what? I think I could generate more revenue in a certain way. Where if I'm working for somebody, I can't think that my pay scale is going to be consistent all the time. As a matter of fact, they can even fire me. But you're allowed to get on that phone right now and call as many places you up for workshops, seminars, demonstrations, offer everybody in Colorado a free 6 months of jiu-jitsu to see if they like it. I mean, you could do whatever you want to increase whatever you need to increase.
Whatever you
no
need to do.
Holding you back.
I have some rules for my kids. I have 6 rules, you know, and we're going to end in a second. And I know you've always been a very religious person. I am not so much a religious person. I'm very spiritual but I do really enjoy the practices of all of the religions. Like they have tenets and things to follow. Right. Mm-hmm. So I have some rules for me and my kids, you know, very, very basic ones. And one of them is surrounding money. You know, you have to address this with your children, in my opinion. We make our money work for us and we don't work for our money. And just so that we can understand money. And the way that starts is everyone has to start working for their money. Yeah. Right. There's no other way to start to understand it unless you go out and earn it and see what your dollar and hour and all these things look like. It's something that we don't like to talk about as business owners, especially as martial artists, because we're supposed to be doing this for the pure reasons, quote unquote, all of them. Right. if you're starving, you won't be able to do the martial art, right? Like you're going to have to go do something else. So money is such a thing. Thank you for the books. We'll put them in the show notes. Man, from somebody with how many, I mean, you got to be looking at 50, 60 years experience now almost. Thanks for coming on. It was great to see you again. I haven't seen you in some time, so
yeah,
it was really good to see you.
Yeah, well, if you're ever in New Jersey and near the beach, come on down.
Who knows when we're going to be in New Jersey again. My wife and I were looking at trying to go somewhere, just to like, I don't know, just get away for a second, and it's like, God damn, it's going crazy. Like we're just going to sit right here.
I don't know.
Sit right here.
Well, my wife's friend she just saw her yesterday. We had to go, or Sunday we had to go travel somewhere, and she tells me her friend's telling me she's in Aruba. I'm like, how are you traveling? I didn't know you were allowed.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I have to travel for fights, like I have a fighter coming up fighting in December the 5th, and I have to pass 4 COVID tests between now and that day.
Where's the fight at? Where's it at?
It's in Vegas,
Wow.
but they test us before we go to see if we have it tested the day you get there. And then you get quarantined in your room for the 24 hours until it comes back. So I have to pass 4 COVID tests. And so I'm not going anywhere, right? I have to be as careful as I can. My fighter needs me, so.
Wow.
It's times, but it's what you said earlier. If we're martial artists, we figure it out. We do the work necessary. We don't complain. Oh, why are you doing this to me? That can all be true too. We're not going to talk about the politics of the certain situations right now. But if you are who you say you are, which is a fighter, a martial artist, whatever it is you say in this industry, well, then you do what's necessary to get the job done today.
That's right. Right. And we're solution oriented. I told you, I said one time, a long time ago, I heard this statement from the founder. He says, we're an action oriented philosophy. And the reason I like that, because if you break it down to the actual English, it means we're just not all talk.
Right.
We just don't talk about this. We actually do it. There's a difference. And I went, that is it in a nutshell. That's it.
Yeah.
Just move to action. No. Move to action. And that means the action that might be uncomfortable. Like I said, the first thing could be like, well, I don't even know, how to answer the phone, or I really don't know how to enroll people on their monthly payments. Well, why don't you go learn? You learn how to do a triangle. Why can't you do it?
So, guys, Sabadim, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And we spent an hour on the phone the other day too, and that was great. I'll probably shoot you some texts every once in a while. I have your number, so I'll just to say hello. You are a huge part of my life, and I don't know, who knows what would have happened in my life without you. So I saw you every day for like a decade. And
well, Eliot, listen, you always, like, your parents raised you well. You were always humble. You were always this. And it's, for me personally, I talk about you sometimes to the students about, your success, and I tell them, I said, this guy, was this little, then he's a giant, and he's got all these muscles. Now he's this, and he was on the Ultimate Fighter, and all this stuff. And the thing is, those things are wonderful. But the thing I remember most about you back then, anyway, I still remember your kindness towards everybody, your humility towards everybody. And I think, to me personally, I don't really care about all the other the things that you achieve. Those things are all wonderful. I'm happy for you. But those are the things I remember from you, to this day, so I'm glad to see that, things are very, going well with you and your wife and your students and this program that you're in. So I can, I can continue to feel, that, I don't know, like it's just a wonderful thing to see this, like you talked about, like the other things that, struggles that you had, or this, just moving to Colorado had to be kind of different, but I think that I think you turned into a good man. And I think that's a quality that goes beyond everything else. So keep it up.
I appreciate it. And you, like I said, I had 2 decades of my life with you almost. So every day. So I appreciate what you did for it. So guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the podcast here. I call him Sabanim. you can find him as Mike Garaguso everywhere else. So don't put in top of him. You're going to get a million hits on that. So depending on when you listen to this podcast, guys, our first course, first impression specialists, all about how to run your front desk. We don't call them front desk because that person's making a first impression every time somebody walks in your door, whether they are a first-time student or they've been with you for 10 years. A first impression is going on. So check it out. It's on our website, Easton.Online. Webinars. We have our webinars up there. We have all of our curriculums up there. You can check everything out. So that's it. I hope you all have a great day. And remember, as always, guys, the impediment of action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle always is the way for all of us.